So our next guest is Lisa Marie, and I'm not her. And she's gonna be here, I'm sure, but she's coming from far away. So she's not here yet, so we're gonna do a little switcheroo on your show orders, and she'll be in the place where it says Keith's Story, which is what this is. So I grew up in this neighborhood in Rhode Island. It was very cool because it was just like a tennis racket-shaped street, and within 150 yards of the duplex that we lived in. We lived in one side of a duplex, and there was this family called the Morans, and they lived on the other side of the duplex. And right near our house, there were 3 ball fields. The school that I went to, I could climb over the fence in our backyard and be in the playground. And there was a huge parking lot for all the baseball fields where you could ride your bike. And there were, behind the baseball fields, there was woods and the Patuxent River. So it was very, very kind of beautiful, kind of, very Americana kind of thing. But it was also the 70s, so it was kind of like Norman Rockwell meets the ice storm. It's kind of, there's like an undercurrent. Thanks for the 2 people who saw that movie. Don't watch it, it's fucking depressing. It's everything bad about the 70s. So, but one of my favorite places in this neighborhood was behind and to the left of the ball fields was Valley Ready Mix. And Valley Ready Mix was a cement mixing company that went bankrupt. And so their building was this huge Quonset hut. And I don't know what the circumstances were for them going out of business, but they went out of business in a hurry. And because in this Quonset hut, which you could easily enter, because the windows were broken, the doors were open, there was an entire cement truck in there, which hippies would climb inside and get high, which was like early hotboxing, which was cool. But then there were like desks and offices and papers, and there were rickety stairs going up to the 2nd level, the 2-level Quonset hut. And then there were ladders on the outside of the building. I have no idea why, so you could climb onto the roof of the Quonset hut. And there were holes because it was rusted metal. Super dangerous, super fun. And what they also had was a giant pile, and again, I don't know the circumstances of this, but broken pieces of concrete, like the size of a baseball. And we figured out, being in there one day, that if you threw one of those at the wall, which was made of metal, it made an incredibly loud, terrible noise. So we came up with a game that we called rock fights. Now, I know, you're thinking like, we threw them at each other. No, it was more nuanced than that. The game was you try to sneak up on people and you throw a rock so that it hits the wall like right here, really close to their head, and scares the shit out of them. And we would chase each other around. And it was like hide and go seek, but more like, head injuries possible. But it was really, really fun, and we loved it. And we started playing these, and we played them every day after school. This was when I was in 5th grade. When I was in 5th grade, there was a kid in my class named Hallie Smith. Not Haley, Hallie. 2 L's. I checked. 2 L's. And he and I took drum lessons together. Super cool kid, very quiet. And his father, Hallie Smith Sr., was a jazz drummer. And exactly. And so I thought this kid was super cool. He was a drummer, his dad was a drummer, and like, yeah, my dad's a drummer. Hallie Smith, jazz drummer. I was like, this kid, I gotta make him my friend. So I made him my friend, but I never get to play with him after school because he lived in a different neighborhood. But I enticed him, I was like, why don't you see if your parents will let you have dinner at my house, because before we have dinner, we have rock fights. And Hallie Smith was like, what? And so Hallie Smith agreed to come in a couple of days to my house and have dinner, and we were going to have a rock fight, and I told him all about it. And we were playing, and I felt like I had to warm up my rock fight game. There was a kid who lived on the other side of the duplex, the Morans. This kid was named Joey Moran. Joey Moran was about 6. And he was always like, what are you guys doing? Can I play with you? Get out of here, Joey Moore, and get lost. We were always like super mean to him and never let him play. He was too little. But in those days, like 6-year-olds were just loose in the world, So he was always following us around, and he would come around and we were like, get lost, Joey Moore, you can't play with us, can't ride bikes with us, you're definitely not invited to rock fights. So we would send him packing all the time. So on the day that Hallie Smith comes over to dinner. Like, my mom's, oh, you know, what are you guys gonna do? I'm like, play baseball? No, yeah, something. And we went to Valley Ready Mix and we started having this incredible rock fight. And Hallie Smith, because he was cool, immediately like on the roof of the Quonset hut. And he's just whipping rocks and he's so good at this game, as I knew he would be. And it was just remarkable. And so we're playing, right? And now we all are up on the roof of Valley Ready Mix, chucking cement at each other. Like, can you imagine this scene? Like 7 11-year-old boys, just, it was bacchanalia, right? And all of a sudden I see, coming across the baseball field, it's Joey Morin. And he's coming towards us and I'm like, get out of here, Joey Morin, we don't even like you, get lost. He's like, oh, I play rock fight, get out of here. But he was far away, you know, like he was like coming towards us, but he was really far away. And really casually, Hallie Smith takes a rock, thoughtlessly, just throws it over his head like he's pitching a baseball, probably thought he wasn't even gonna get close. And it was like one of those scenes where, sorry guys, so the rock is sailing through the air and you're just like, ha ha ha, Hallie Smith, and you look, and then Joey Morin is standing there and all of a sudden, poof, he's over. And it like hit him right in the forehead. It was like a 1 in a million shot. And we looked at each other and we were like, oh fuck. And Joey Morin, like, first, of course, we thought he was dead. So we were already like planning jail time and like, because he didn't get up for like half a minute. And so we were like, and then he gets up and blood is streaming out of his head as it does when you get hit with a rock in the head. And he's like, ah! And we're like, oh, thank God he's alive. And he runs home. You can imagine the trouble we got in for this. We threw a rock at a kid who was like 100 feet away, and we hit him. And it was Hallie Smith. Like, what happened? Like, well, I outed him immediately. And I was like, Hallie threw a rock and hit Joey Morin. Hallie's got to go home. And then I was mortified because jazz drummer Hallie Smith Sr. had to come pick him up. And I was like, I'll never get to play with that guy. That sucks. And he disappeared, and I was grounded, and that was sadly like the end of my friendship with Hallie Smith. And it was kind of the end of rock fights, obviously, too. So, so that's my story about rocks, but before this weekend, I looked up Hallie Smith on Facebook to see if I could find him, and he's got one of those really creepy Facebook pages where he doesn't have a picture of himself, but it's definitely him, and you know, he went to West Warwick High School and all this stuff, and he is a chef, which seems like a pretty non-violent thing that he went into. So then I was like, ooh, what happened to Joey Morin? And I looked that kid up, and definitely him. And Joey Morin turned into a crazy conspiracy theorist, like AK-47 Trump, like, and I don't want to blame Hallie Smith, but I think it's his fault. And that's my story.